I live in the middle of nowhere, in the state of Pennsylvania, in a small hick town called Clearfield. The only real business we get here are hunters and people traveling to Penn State University. So we do not have much lines of real business. We have many local chains, restaurants, or chain restaurants, along with Pennsylvania's largest gun shop. But there are no real entertainment stores, and many of us are under the poverty level. Along with that, Clearfield Country is very large in square footage and spread out. It's in the middle of the mountain ranges, so it can take hours to get from one end to the country to or county to the other, especially to those that live in the mountains. It was winter at the time of this happening, and there was a lot of foot snow on the ground, especially the roads were icy. So it took even longer to get anywhere. I live in the area of Gurad and Goshen, deep in the mountains. Most kids I go to high school with are rednecks and hillbillies. So many of them would poke fun at me if I knew I was a brony. Yep, stuff you don't see every day. A redneck brony. Because there are so many hicks here, there's not much one can find. There's not much one can find in our local stores related to My Little Pony. One would have to go all the way to Du Bois, which is on the far edge of the county, in order to get anything related to MLP FIM. I was at the so-called Clearfield Mall, though you can't really call it a mall since it's just a plaza with a glass hallway in front and the arcade. I was at the Goodwill store. I'm not living in poverty. I just go to Goodwill to see if I can find neat stuff like classic records or novels. I was looking through the used DVD section. I came across a DVD case with no cover. I looked inside, and there was a DVD inside labeled My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Princess Twilight Sparkle. Something seemed off about the labeling. It may have been off-center. Nevertheless, I thought I might as well get it, since I have a bad satellite signal at my place, and I could always get into hub or internet, and would have terrible feeling season-free ending any other way, without my parents knowing. They're rather hickish, too, and want to understand. Not to mention, it was only $1.50. I took the DVD to the counter, and I was rung out by an older woman who exhibited early symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. I gave her the $1.50 and she handed me the DVD. She asked if I was getting the DVD for her sister, and I lied yes, so then she wouldn't ask any more questions. I then pulled out of the parking lot to my red Dodge pickup, what most people drive in this area, and decided to head back home to Goshen. And as I got halfway up the mountain, a snowstorm started, and I lost my visibility. I was used to the typical snowstorm, but this storm seemed rather fierce. Luckily, I knew where I was at, and knew it would take only 5 more minutes of driving on Gillingham Road to get to my place. The storm got worse. I got to half a mile away from home, so I pulled over and jumped out of the vehicle to get a bearing of my location. When I figured out where I was, which was by the old Gillingham Cemetery, I was just about to climb back onto my vehicle when I saw something that caught my eye. It was a machine gun laying in the snow, the kind that would be illegal for civilians to own, not having any bit of snow covering it, which I found odd, since the snow had picked up and the gun showed no signs of being covered, as it was just placed there. I looked at the muzzle and noticed that there were traces of blood on it, and I was worried. I was not worried about my own being. I figured out that I was probably just being used to post, which we get a lot. I was going to call the police, but I had no cell phone, so no damn Verizon. So I drove on. After the storm calmed down, as sudden as it appeared. I drove while it was clear. I pulled into my driveway when the storm suddenly picked up again. I ran into my house with the DVD in hand. I unlocked the door and walked into my home. I was alone at the time since my father worked at a petroleum plant in Clearfield, while my mom worked as a pharmacist in Frenchville. I was free to watch the DVD without ridicule by my family. Alright. I ran for the TV in my room. I popped the DVD into my laptop because I figured if this worked, I'd lose power any moment now. The disc seemed to take forever to load. I feared I may have been scalped and got a bad disc. However, it eventually loaded. The program started. The DVD seemed to work rather smoothly. I watched all the episodes on the disc, which included Magical Mystery Core, Games Ponies Play, Magic Duel, Mystery on the Friendship Express, and Lesson Zero. I read about the DVD beforehand and knew that these were all episodes on the DVD, right? Well, when I finished Lesson Zero, a pop-up came on my laptop. Flutter.exe requires permission from the administrator to execute, or something like that. I had no idea what that meant, so I just clicked yes. From there, things started to get rather bizarre. On the bottom right at the corner, was an interesting caption. Unaired episode 12, 14, 12. It seemed rather odd. The episode, though, appeared to be animated with the Lauren Faust style. It seemed rather off. First thing shown was a sad-looking Fluttershy staring into a mirror. The scene depicted numerous flashbacks that show so quickly I had to pause and rewind at times. What I saw when I played back slowly disturbed me. The first flashback was Twilight and Spike participating in a very sexually explicit activity, which are appearing to be a screenshot of the Rule 44 game, Double the Fun. The next flashback was a short clip of Pinkie Pie passed out in her own urine, obviously drowned. The next clip was Rarity lying in a hospital bed with while a doctor held a blurry mass of something in front of her. I paused and took a screen cap. I passed onto the program and zoomed into the blurry object. I used a program to clarify the blur. When I saw the final result, I was sickened. It was a bloody pony fetus, with its head nearly destroyed and bloody. Did Rarity have a partial sex abortion? I continued playing and saw the rest of the flashbacks. They included Applejack physically abusing Apple Bloom in a manner similar to the toward the cassette in I'll forget that. And Rainbow Dash surrounded by dirty lab equipment. I got a good look at the product around her and I figured out that it was a meth lab. And that the flashback implemented that shows a meth maker. The flashbacks ended. I played the clip at normal speed again. Sinister sounding music started to play. The kind of music you would hear on Criminal Minds. Flashlight started to show signs of anger, of rage even. The next thing I saw was still a photo of her and what happened to be a Kevlar vest. She had a rather legal-looking machine gun, looking exactly like the one I saw on the road earlier, only animated in the Lauren Faust style. She looking exactly like she also had numerous machine gun rounds, knives, handguns, and handguns strapped around her. She wore night vision goggles. I was getting very concerned. Why would Lauren Faust show such demented imagery and final objects in a kids show? The next still photo was a flashlight with the vest off, and what I saw disturbed me. She wrote She wore a white t-shirt that said Natural Selection, written in black marker. Natural Selection, machine guns, grenades, knives? The first thing I saw was the 1999 Columbine High School shooting. After 10 seconds of that still photo, it got back to motion. Felicia was shown leaving her house at night with her vest, t-shirt, gun, and other weapons. It zoomed into the floor where one could see her rabbit Angel laying on the floor dead. Angel was gored and bloodied. It was rather detailed, but still done in the Lornfast style. I did not like what I feared would happen next. It happened to cut to the theme song of the show. It seemed rather normal, but it seemed kind of off. I could tell the colors were off and duller than usual, and the music seemed slightly flat enough to make it uneasy. When I got to the end of the theme, there was a part that says, developed for television by Lawrence Faust. It flashed momentarily to a different name. I had to pause it to get a glimpse at the name. What I saw scared me. Developed for television by Sean Chu. In the typical font usually used as if officially made. The Shanghai Cho, the Virginia tech shooter. Sun Hai Cho, I knew what would be coming up in this episode could not be good. It cut to the next scene. It showed the Ponyville schoolhouse and students entering the plaza, or the building. It seemed rather peaceful until the title of the episode came up. Flight Rwanda. I could not make out the rest of the personnel usually shown, but I didn't care. Flight Rwanda? Is this some kind of sick joke? It made sense. Unaired episode 12/4/12, Flight Rwanda, December 14, 2012, was the day the Sandy Hook massacre took place, which was prepared for by former student Adam Lanza. I got a sick feeling in my stomach and got a good idea of what I was in for. As Miss Chili started up class with the door not closed, she took attendance as usual. The Kingdom Crusaders were doing their usual things, while Snips and Snails were sat there being stupid. The doors to the schoolroom knocked. Chili walked up to the door. Who is it? Do I have a late student? Chili asked through the door. It's Fluttershy, stated the respective timid voice. Could I come in real quick? I kept telling Miss Chili in mind, do not open the door. Run for your life. However, she tragically opened the door as soon as she let the Pegasus in. Fluttershy started shooting at the schoolhouse, killing Miss Chili first. She just waved her machine gun around, killing every student inside. She did not aim at anybody, just waved it around like a madman. There was blood and dead students everywhere, except for the Kingdom Crusaders. Where were they? Fluttershy surveyed the room, searching for the missing Crusaders. She saw hooves under the teacher's desk from the little slit on the bottom to cut the CMC, hiding for fear of their lives. Tragically, they would not make it. Fluttershy threw a grenade under the desk and immediately detonated, destroying the desk and mutilating the CMC. Rather graphically, it was a rather realistic explosion, and the sound of bodies crunching and splattering was rather gruesome. But it still looked like the Lornfast style animation. I was grossed out, but didn't come close to vomiting since I'm used to seeing that kind of stuff. I hunt during deer season, and I saw many war movies. I was still appalled that this is even animated. Faust wouldn't animate something like this, but it looked way too much like her style. The next scene cut to Rainbow Dash, who was headed to Sweet Sweet Apple Acres to visit Applejack. What she saw struck her and me with terror. At the front gate, Granny Smith lay dead in bloody mess. Rainbow Dash ran to the barn after realizing Granny Smith was dead for fear of Applejack's life. Her fears were confirmed. She took a look inside and saw Big Macintosh laying dead in a pool of blood. His intestines were strewed about, with his eyes gouged out. But what was really disturbing was the body of Applejack. She had everything Big Mac had except for all her organs were pulled out on her back. The words child abuser were carved on in her flesh. Her face had a look of terror, as if she was caught by someone she did not expect. Rainbow Dash expressed sorrow for her fallen friend, but it was caught by fear for her own life. What was she next? What was going on? From the shadows, Fluttershy entered. Rainbow stared in fear. Fluttershy? Rainbow trembled with fear. Did you do this? A tear fell from her eye. In a voice distinct from her normal voice, a disturbing teenage male voice, Fluttershy asked, do you believe in God? Remember that this was a quote associated with Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the Columbian shooters, and a voice slightly uncharacteristic of Rainbow Dash, resembling that more of a timid teenage girl voice. She answered, yes. Then go be with him, Fluttershy screamed in a deep male voice. She put her gun to Rainbow Dash's forehead and pulled the trigger. Animated brain, blood, and bone flew onto Fluttershy. Rainbow Dash was dead, and her head destroyed. I knew this was highly uncharacteristic of Lauren Faust, but I kept watching out of sick curiosity. The next minute sickened me. Fluttershy carved onto Rainbow Dash's flank. Crack horror. The sound of cutting flesh was highly realistic, and it almost made me throw up, but I kept it down. That will teach that bitch, Fluttershy said in her normal voice. The screen went black. I figured that this would be where the commercial would normally air. This sick episode was actually to be released. I paused for a moment. Why would Foster write this? Especially after the recent chain of school shootings. This couldn't be her, could it? I unpaused and decided to continue with the episode. The next scene was the Sugar Cube Corner, Pinkie Pie's place of residence and employment. Oh no. What? Would Fluttershy really kill off the cakes? I shuddered, but I knew I had to keep watching. Mrs. Cake wanted to check upon the babies, Pound Cake and Pumpkin Cake, in the nursery room. When Mrs. Cake entered the room, the scene skipped to Mr. Cake, who was sitting down in the kitchen drinking his morning beverage. His calm drinking was interrupted by a blood-curdling scream, one that was marked with sorrow. I feared that what happened next. Mr. Cake ran to the nursery and saw the horrible sight. Mrs. Cake emitted a cry of sorrow. It panned to the front her front. To her horror, laying in front of her were the twins, dead. They were tinged with a sickening shade of blue. Both of the cakes started crying in sorrow, realizing that the children were dead. How sick and tragic! I think Lauren Faust would be sensitive to the fact that some few lost infant siblings to SIDS. Am I wrong, or is this not Lauren Faust? But rather some sick copycat. If that was not sick enough, the next sight was sicken almost any fewer. Pinkie Pie walked into the doorway. She was limping and was clearly unstable. She stared at the cakes, then she uttered in a sickly voice, "It wasn't SIDS." Pinkie Pie then collapsed in the doorway and started seizing. Her eyes rolled into the back of her head, and she started to vomit this foamy substance. Her eyes started bleeding as she rolled around on the floor. The cakes ran to her attention, but they were too late. She stopped breathing, and her heart stopped beating after a minute. She was dead too. As the cakes mourned for her, too, the camera zoomed into the dead ones. I paused and zoomed into their faces, where I could see some slight brushing around their snouts. Now, no expert, but I believe that something like this could be a sign that they were bothered. The closet door opened. Flashlight popped out. What fun is life without a little death? I recognized this quote from the journal of Dylan Bold, one of the Colombian shooters. To continue, Fluttershy started to shooting at the cakes. It was really brutal. Blood and gore flew all over the room as the cakes breathed their last. They were finally dead. After taking about 100 rounds to their bodies, after everyone in the room except for Fluttershy was dead, she walked towards the body of Pinkie Pie. She grabbed her knife and carved into Pinkie Pie's side. Drunkard. She had shot up the schoolhouse, destroyed the Apple Farm family, and slaughtered Rainbow Dash. She did something to Pinkie Pie and the Cakes them twins to kill them, although it wasn't exactly what killed them. She shot up the Cake parents. I knew that there would be more victims. I knew that she would go after the rest of Mink 6, not including herself. This left Rarity and Twilight Sparkle, along with whoever else would get in her way. The screen faded black, and in white font, this message showed up. I want to burn the world. This struck even more fear into my eyes. And this struck even more fear into me, as this was a quote from the journal Eric Harris. I was sick to my stomach now, but I had to keep watching. The screen faded black to a bridge in the ever-free forest. There was no sides to it, so no one could fall from the side, or so. One could fall up the side. I saw something at the top right of the corner, but I couldn't make it out, so I paused the DVD and zoomed in without any editing. I could clearly see the corpse of Sakura hanging from one of the trees. She was clearly lynched in a style similar to the actions done in Ku Klux Klan school shootings, racism, lynchings. What sick bastard got the idea to write a distortion of a children's cartoon? I zoomed back out and continued playing. Fluttershy came in a rolling chair with a cement block strapped to it. Who else was tied to it besides Rarity? I got into a deep pit of sickness in my stomach. I knew that what Fluttershy would do now. This time Rarity was still alive, but I already had to carvings on her flank. Philly killer. She was clearly distressed and tired of screaming, but she was bound and gagged so no sound could come out. Fluttershy removed the gag, giving Rarity the chance to beg for life. "Please, don't do this," Rarity begged. Fluttershy ignored her. The lonely mare strikes with absolute rage. This is another familiar quote used by Dylan Klebold for a poem he had written. Albert Pornified. No, Rarity begged. "I'm so sorry for whatever I did to you. Please don't do this." Rarity was crying tears of depression, but Fluttershy did not care. She pushed the chair off the bridge, dragging Rarity into the river as she screamed bloody murder. Rarity sank into the deep depths of the river, never to be heard from again. I am the law, and you don't like it, you die, Fluttershy uttered in an evil male voice, shown earlier except calmer. She stared into the river, watching Rarity drown. She walked towards the corpse of Sakura. It was clear now that Fluttershy lynched her. You nigger. It was her, not her normal voice, or the evil teen male voice from earlier, but rather the voice of a sovereign middle-aged man. It also sounded like it was cut off, as there was supposed to be more said. I recognized the voice as Bob Ewell from the 1962 film To Kill a Mockingbird. So Fluttershy is a murderer and a racist now? Who made this sick film? The show cut to Twilight Sparkle's house. Some sinister sounding music started playing. I knew this song as I played it for my junior year in high school band. It was one of the moments that joined the mighty Lord of the Rings Symphony. I believe this part was the Journey to the Darkness. I could be wrong. I don't really remember exactly. Anyway, the camera zoomed into the window and then jumped to Twilight Sparkle's bed. She and Spike were screwing each other. Spike was humping the hell out of Twilight, clearly getting it in. She was pumping and blood bodily fluids were flying everywhere. Both were moaning and screaming as they pleasured each other. The sinister music was getting louder and more suspenseful. I knew that something horrible would happen soon. Both of them eventually came. But the actions that they had performed were clearly not enough. I was about sickened with what I'd already seen. I don't know how it could get worse. It did. Spike was laying upon Charlie's bed. Charlie climbed up on top of him and started to defecate on his chest. Oh my lord! She was performing a Cleveland steamer. I was just about to throw up. I knew that if my parents were to walk in here, they would kill me. So ashamed of what I watched. I continued watching in hopes that it would stop. It didn't after she was done. She got in front of Spike. She started to urinate and she caught the steady flow of yellow on her mouth. I was done with this. I could not take any more. I pressed the eject button on my disc tray, but it would not open. The clip disc kept playing. Who else has a present for Spiky Wikey? Spike shouted after he finished urinating. How about a Cosby sweater? Charlie replied. Holy shit! Did this go from a twisted horror to a horribly made sex porn or a shock porno? Charlie made her vomit on Spike's chest now. It was clear that she had eaten a bunch of fruity cereal. The mess of vomit had multiple muted colors, mixed in with the nasty color of the bite. I came even closer to throwing up. I had seen some nasty shit before. My friends got me to look up shit like 2 Girls, 1 Cup, and Lemon Party, and Goatsy, and even 3 Guys, 1 Hammer. But this was even more sickening than anything they got me to watch. The music was building up. I was actually looking forward to seeing the two of them die. I hated Twilight Sparkle now. I wanted that whore to die. The scene changed to what looked like a hunting school. It was looking through the window and was clearly aiming for Spike. When the shooter got a lock on Spike, the shooter pulled the trigger. The shooter took off the scope, and the camera changed to reveal that it was Fluttershy. She grinned that evil grin of hers. Oh, 1 down, 2 to go. The scene went back to Twilight. Back to Twilight's bed. Spike's head had taken the shot in blood and brain matter for splattered all over the wall. Twilight herself stood. She stood in shock, and she stared in horror as she watched Baldi bleed. Who did this? Twilight screamed in horror. Fluttershy walked in to the door of Twilight's house. Fluttershy, someone killed Spike. Please get some help. Twilight shouted at her. Fluttershy ignored her. She walked towards the bed. She pulled out a knife. Fluttershy, what are you doing? Twilight asked as she backed towards the wall. At the climax of the music, Fluttershy started stabbing the daylights out of Twilight's sparkle. Twilight screamed bloody murder. She hacked everywhere until Twilight's lungs were filled with blood. She stopped breathing and her heart stopped. She was dead, but Fluttershy just kept stabbing. I counted up to 250 times before she stopped stabbing. I have a very good sense of numbers and was able to remember each stab, even whenever I was paying attention to the blood and gore. Fluttershy calmed herself down. She took the knife and started carving at Twilight Sparkle's thigh. By the time she finished carving her thigh, pedal whore. Then saw Fluttershy do something I had never seen her do before. She stuck her hoof into the blood puddle and smeared a smiley face upon the wall by Twilight's bed. I recognized the picture. It was an exact match to the inside of Red John from The Mentalist. I wanted to see Twilight dead, but not like this. I came to the conclusion that it was not Lauren Faust who made it. I figured out it was just some deranged psychopath who had learned how to animate just like Faust. But I was now worried for her. Was she stalking her? Would we lose to an animation genius? The screen faded to black. I knew this was not a real episode. It had clearly run for 35 minutes. When it faded to black, the scene was that of the Crystal Empire. What could be done now to make this episode even scarier? The camera to a feeder. Princess Cadance and Prince Shining Armor were on the top balcony. They were chatting and viewing the performance. Handel's Messiah. They seemed to be really enjoying it. The camera changed the viewing to the back of the stage, behind the curtain where Fluttershy stood, waiting for the right chance to strike. She pulled out a remote with an evil grin on her face. She pushed the button and a loud explosion heard. The people in the theater panicked. Everyone screamed bloody murder. It was shown that the balcony Cadance and Shining Armor was viewing the performance from had blown up, and the two rulers were now splattered to the wall, dead. Fluttershy jumped out from behind the curtain and started shooting like they were before the schoolhouse. She shot everyone, killing everyone inside. She would not kill everyone, though, like at the schoolhouse. A group of police officers ran behind her and tackled her. They successfully subdued her and arrested her for numerous counts of murder. She put up a very little fight as they carried her away, but rather she gave them an extremely evil-looking grin, like she did not care. This grin was no ordinary grin, but very similar to the one in this legendary Smile Dog. She had over 250 kills in her whole rampage. Over 230 of them being from the theater. The screen faded to black once more. I was glad the maniac was finally caught, but I could not help to feel sorry for those who had lost their families and lives in the rampage. The black screen lasted for about a minute. I hoped that it was finally over. It wasn't. The screen faded to black. What looked like a courtroom. Months had passed since the rampage, and Fluttershy had pleaded guilty for murder. She was now in court for sentencing and for final comments before she go to prison for life. The first pony to go up on the petroleum was Princess Luna. I was glad to see one of Equestria's rulers, since they are one of my favorite ponies. Fluttershy, why? Luna asked, understand. I wonder why you would do something like this. It seems so out of character for you. I have no idea what would motivate you to do this. She started to cry. I bet you were abused by your family, perhaps molested by your father. You had a horrible childhood. There was ones that used to call friends to turned on you and started letting you flawed creatures control themselves. I was appalled when I learned that Twilight Spark had done to Spike for these past 3 years, taking advantage of a child. I was astonished that Apple Bloom never managed to report the abuse that she faced in the hands of her family. But why would you kill the rest of them? Why did you murder the victims of these monsters? Why? Her sobbing started to get out of control. She gained her composure after a while. Perhaps a lifetime in prison will help you hurt the hate in your heart. Whoa! Is Luna acknowledging the idea that Fluttershy was abused as a filly? I thought that was just an urban legend, but now I wasn't so sure. Then this clearly was not authentic. Princess Luna got up to stand, and that it was Fluttershy's turn to speak. Her last line. This would turn out to be the most disturbing portion of this already demonic episode. Fluttershy wound up on the stand. She was in her prison outfit, ready to speak. The first thing she said was remove her prison jacket. What she wore underneath disturbed me. Beyond all belief. She wore herself a white t-shirt and it bore the word killer written sloppily with black marker. This was getting very similar to me, but what she said for her last statement was really shocked me. This is a message for all the families of my victims. The hoof that pulls the trigger. You killed your families now claps their memory. Fuck all of you, she said in another different voice, resembling that of another male teenager. I recognized that quote from something on the news. It was sentencing from G.J. Lang, the predator from the Chardon High School shooting. He wore the exact same t-shirt I saw Fluttershy wear. He said almost the exact same thing, except Fluttershy's speech was bonified. However, it sounded more like it sounded like the voice was T.J. Lang's himself. How could he have recorded this line for a kid show? It couldn't get any worse, I thought. That was until Fluttershy pulled a handgun from her pocket. The ponies of the courtroom fled at the scene for the fear of their lives, except for the police. They ran for her, but before they could reach her, she put the barrel in her mouth and pulled the trigger. The bullet exited out of the top of her head. She died immediately. Blood of brain matter poured out from her mouth in a manner similar to that one in the infamous Bud Dwyer suicide. Random bursts of static took over the screen as she bled out after flickering on and off. The screen was overtook with extremely loud static. It stopped suddenly, and I saw the most disturbing image of my life. It was a picture of Fluttershy bleeding out, where her eyes were missing and socks were left to bleed. The image literally made me wet myself. I kept watching, not saying no get any worse. However, I was wrong. The song of healing started playing backwards, similar to the story Ben Drowned. The clip changed to another disturbing video clip. It was zoomed in automatically. I saw her. All I saw was what looked like Fluttershy performing fellatio on someone. As the video zoomed out automatically, I saw that someone who she was pleasuring on was no one else but the infamous T.J. Lane, the Chardon shooter. He was clearly enjoying it, but Fluttershy looked even more, and I couldn't see that someone was penetrating Fluttershy at the other end. I was so sick by this. I just wanted it to be over. It zoomed out to show the face of who was penetrating Fluttershy. It was no one other than the evil Adam Lanza, the Sandy Hook murderer. Fluttershy was enjoying both ends of her being fooled, but but I was sick to my stomach. After 10 minutes of watching the horrible sex act, the two mass murderers came to at the bodily fluids covered the screen until it was all white. The screen then faded to black, then stayed there for 30 seconds. Was this some kind of sick joke? Who made this? I wanted to find out who made this sick, or who made this video and slit their throat. I thought the video was over, but I was dead wrong once again. The screen suddenly flashed in multiple colors. It was then the most evil image I've ever seen. It was Adam Lanza once more. He had no eyes, but only bleeding sockets and blood running down his mouth. The image flashed over and over again in different colors at the same time. Loud, blood-curdling screams filled the room. At this point, it didn't even sound like that was coming from my computer. Rather, it found me all around the room. I covered my ears and fell over. From there, everything went black. I woke up 3 hours later in the emergency room at Clearfield Hospital. My parents were sitting by my side. What happened? I asked rather groggily. I came home and saw you passed out on your bedroom floor. I was worried that I would lose you. She sobbed that the doctors said that she had a grand mal seizure. My father said, "Does this mean I'm epileptic?" I asked. The doctor told us that you had stress seizure, apparently triggered by some sort of psychological trauma. And my father said they were psychological non-epileptic seizures, or PNES. Did something happen to you while you were home alone? My mom asked. What was on my computer when you found me? I asked. Remember the DVD? When I called the ambulance, I saw that message on the computer screen. I was too worried about you, but I took a look anyway. It said something it said something to the effect of, "This isn't over." My mom replied, "What is this about?" "Something happened to my computer," I said. "I found a movie at the Goodwill and played it on my laptop. It played some disturbing imagery that was not supposed to be there. I think I might have bought a pirated film." My parents embraced me, glad that I was safe. The doctor recommended that I be kept home for school the next day. This would end up saving my life. My parents got a call the next day from my high school. There had been a school shooting that left 3 students dead, including the shooter who killed herself. I knew this girl. She was in my grade. She was a beautiful blondie, and had those beautiful blue eyes. She never talked with anyone. She just blended in most of the time. I never knew she had it in her to kill people. The news reporters stated that she had been raped by a couple of male students about a year ago, and finally decided to take her revenge on those guys. I knew those guys. They were a bunch of football stars. I could not stand them. They were womanizers and troublemakers, but the school ignored them since they were valuable assets to our team. The news also reported a pending investigation into her family's life, with recent allegations by her older sister that she that the father had sexually abused her since kindergarten. A press conference was held where it was announced that the shooter wore bulletproof vest and carried many knives, handguns, and a machine gun. It also found out that she was carrying a small plastic figure of Fluttershy. When they searched her house, they had found a large amounts of My Little Pony fan art, and what was shown to the press looked very authentic, as if Warren Faust drew them herself. They also found on her computer a series of flash animations she made of My Little Pony, animations that could not be shown on TV due to graphic nature and the clips that she made. They did not disclose the content, but did state that the videos she made were extremely violent. They had also found that she had shrines in her room, devoted to school shooters, including Eric Harris, Dylan Klebold, T.J. Lane, Sean Hack Cho, and of course the most recent case, Adam Lanza. Nobody in our school knew how disturbed she was, or she really was. Nobody knew that she would be the next school shooter. Now, I wonder, did she make the film herself? I wonder if she made the film that film and intentionally put it at the Goodwill store in time so a local to see it and hear her cries for help. Could she have been asking for help, or was it something more sinister? I had the DVD sent burned. I did not want to victimize myself even more. I already had by sending it to the police. My parents never found out about what was really on the DVD, and still don't know about my addiction to My Little Pony. Perhaps someday I will tell them about me being a brony. Maybe tell the whole school. I have finals to study for. I should put the past behind me. If anyone you know has major problems and you fear they might have to do something like this, please get some help immediately so that we can prevent more Sandy Hooks or Columbines. So if this is you, you know that nobody is unloved. There is always something that loves you. Weeping may Larry for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalms 35.